advice, instruction, and information on alternative wellness techniques given herein is not a substitute for, nor should be mistaken for conventional medicine. Always seek first the guidance of your healthcare professional before endeavoring to add complementary medicine or alternative wellness to your conventional healthcare regimen. Neither Dr. Michael Leike nor anybody associated with Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, or any other social media, blogs, podcasts, and webcasts that Dr. Leike appears on do not necessarily endorse any of the advice given herein.
Coming up next on The Fourfold Path, Episode 12, Identifying with God.
Welcome to the Fourfold Path and Dr. Michael Leike's spiritual tools and technologies that will increase the quality of your life.
And welcome back, everybody, to The Fourfold Path. I'm Reverend Dr. Michael Leike. I'm so excited to be sharing these lessons with you about the Fourfold Path. This time, we'll be discussing identifying with God. We'll be back.
Now in its 10th season, listen and watch Fridays to Dr. Michael's podcast and webcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, Spreaker, Blog Talk Radio, YouTube, and Facebook.
And we're back. Very, very brief summation. Let's say for the past year or so, or more hopefully, you've been doing your spiritual tools and technologies of mystical or contact or higher consciousness meditation, combined with scientific or affirmative prayer, combined with visualization, which I like to call envisioning or visioning while meditating and doing these spiritual practices. So you've been evolving. You've been naturally healing the various levels of your unconscious mind. You've been, in essence, starting to rid yourself of any negative karma. You've been starting to rid yourself anyway of negative hindrances getting in the way of your oneness with Source, which would include your personal ego will or ego identity. So that's been clearing away naturally anyway. And you've been feeling happier, and you've begun to bring to yourself an existence that works for you and for others as well. So you're starting to do more compassionate acts, more philanthropic acts. You're acting more not about yourself anymore, but more for others. And still, you're evolving. And you're becoming more and more with your maker, if you will, more and more with higher mind. And just enjoying your life, and others can and becoming more intuitive as well as a result, being more God-guided towards an end, towards being more selfless. Let's say you wake up in the morning, you're suddenly inspired to go and do this, and initially it's in the greatest interest of others, but it ends up also being in your greatest interest. Well, we call that God guidance, what also people call, which leads to living your soul's purpose, which is God guidance and God's will for you in this lifetime. So it's very fulfilling. Let's say you're on this roll over after a year or two of your spiritual practices. That's all you need. Let's say you're just doing all of this. That is amazing. Let's say you live the rest of your physical illusionary life in this manner. Wow, fantastic. But let's say consciously, you want to jump onto the Fourfold Path, and suddenly you realize, as you've knocked on that first door of the technique, which we covered a couple of episodes back, which is letting go of your personal ego will and how to do it. It's simply sitting in meditative state while doing all your spiritual practices anyway, and saying to yourself over and over 3 times, I let go of my personal ego will, I let go of my personal ego will, I let go of my personal ego will. 3 times you say it out loud while in meditative state. 3 times you whisper it, and another 3 times you say it just mentally, silently, if you will. And let's say you've knocked on that second door. Let's say you're doing all of this every time you meditate. The second door, if you will, that you opened to the fourfold path is releasing negative karma on all levels of your mind, negative energy factors, negative energy karma factors. Very similar. While in meditative state, you've let go your personal ego will a few times. Now you release any negative karma from all levels of your mind. I release all negative karma on all levels of my mind. I release all negative karma from any levels of my mind. So you see that, say that 3 times while in meditative state, and then whisper it, and then silently say it. So those are the 2 of the fourfold path. Well, now we're up to the third one. And the third one, some people regard as a great mystery. Some people regard as impossible. Some people, I've heard some of my patients and clients go on, how do you identify with God, while they're scratching their head in a cartoon manner? And let's just say this. Most of you get this out there. Some of you may or may not who are new to this. And even if you're not new to this, you still may not understand. Identifying with God, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean we believe we're God? Does that mean we strut about in an arrogant fashion saying, hey, I'm God, or believing that they're God and they can do anything and all this sort of thing? Well, obviously not. It doesn't work that way. If you start to believe that, you better seek out the help of a physician, either a GP or a psychiatrist or a psychologist, which I recommend anyway. This is my little disclaimer throughout the series, is always seek first the help and guidance of your healthcare professional. And that always means either your GP, and maybe your GP will indicate to you that you should see a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist in conjunction with all of this. Certainly, regular medical science, never discard science. Science people need. Science was created by God through human beings. So it's just as sacred, just as useful as anything else. So science, as well as the spiritual practices, you want to tackle mind, body, soul with yourself and make yourself a perfect body temple on all levels. So that's always my disclaimer. Always seek first the guidance of your healthcare professional, and augment with these techniques, these alternative wellness, complementary medicine techniques. Regardless, how do you identify with God? Identifying with God, what does that mean? Well, in New Thought metaphysics, it simply means you relate to the energy frequencies of God. And what are the energy frequencies of God? Quite simply and quite obviously, peace, love, joy, harmony, higher intelligence, wisdom, creativity, compassion, patience. Did I say joy? And so when you sit down during your meditation practice anyway, during your spiritual tools and technology practice anyway, while in meditative state, hopefully you become one consciously and not with Source. And that simply means when you're feeling joy, when you're feeling compassion, when you're feeling happiness, when you're feeling all of these incredible emotions and feelings, and a peace that passeth all understanding, you're one with God. Well, God is one with you, and you are one with God. You're not just one with God. God is also one with you. You may remember some lessons back, some episodes back, I was likening us to fish, a fish in water. And the water is God, or the mind of the universe, if you will. But it also exists within us. So water is within the fish and around the fish. The fish is in the water is in the fish. Therefore, we exist in the mind of God, the mind of the universe, or water, or an ocean. But that also exists within us. We have the water within us. We have the ocean within us. We have the great universe, the great mind of God within us. And that's why sometimes, as part of affirmative prayer, we say, God is everywhere. There is no place God is not. God is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, omnipotent, if you will, omniscient. Because there's no place God is not. Therefore, where we are, God is. Therefore, where the fish is, water is. It's simplified, but should be pretty obvious. So the concept, the ego concept, the personal ego concept of I am God, it doesn't apply here. It's a completely different concept from I exist within God. God exists within me. I exist within the mind of the universe. The mind of the universe exists within me. And how do we access the mind of the universe? At the very center nucleus of our mind, through meditation, mystical meditation, contact meditation, or higher consciousness meditation, all terms for the same thing, for oneness. And I covered those techniques in one of the very first few episodes. So that's the differences between an ego-based, ego will, personal ego identity definition of identifying with God. It's not, hey, I'm God. Kind of like the Fonz, if you will. Who's the Fonz? Google that. It's more like, I rest in the energies of who and what I truly am. Contentment, peace, love, joy, harmony. I rest in that. I swim in that. I identify with that. That is who I am, and that is what is within me. There's no part of me that is not that. Even on a cellular level, we can take it to a microscope, if you will, an electron microscope, and see past the molecules, past the atoms, at the subatomic particle level. Scientists have proven, they don't call it God at all. They call it the Higgs boson, this little spark, and they've named it after the person who identified it. Well, what is that little spark? Duh. Scientists, in all their great blessings, in all their great abilities, will not use the word God, because it's just simply not part of the lingo. Hopefully it's not ego-based. Hopefully they're not doing it for ego reasons, not saying God. I think they just like to use scientific terms. And they haven't come up with a scientific term for that spark, that minuscule subatomic particle that exists at the center nucleus of every single thing, animate, inanimate, solid, not solid. If you took a microscope to the air, you'd see that spark in the cells, in the existence, in the what we call energy frequencies around us. You'd see those same sparks if you took a piece of skin and analyzed it. You'd see those same sparks within every single one of the trillions of cells of our body, within every single one of the cells of a feather, or the earth, or the water. It's everywhere. It just vibrates differently. When it vibrates slower, it's of a different consistency. When it vibrates faster, it's of a different consistency. So objects that are thicker or lighter, if you look at the cells within them, and at the subatomic particle level, the energy frequencies, or God, they're just resonating at a different frequency, faster or slower. And how exciting is that? I'd like to say, I am God, you are God, or I see God within you, which is an exciting expression you may or may not be familiar with, Namaste. And that's simply what that means. God in me sees God in you. And if you can see God in another person, i.e. if you see that spark, if you see that love, if you feel that compassion, which is within every single one of us, that is where you want to be. If you can do that all the time, if you can, say, go for breakfast somewhere and see compassion and love within everybody, whether you see it as a spark or whether you see it as some kind of energy frequency, that's where you want to be. And if you can do it all the time, wow, you've transcended your personal ego will for sure. You're not all about yourself anymore. You're not all about, oh, I don't feel so good today. It's kind of like, I feel love. I feel the love within that person. Of course, you're not going to go up to them and say that. They'll have you committed probably in this day and age. But you will certainly feel it and know it. And how reassuring is that? So, coincidentally, this third technique, this third rung, this third door along the Fourfold Path to Enlightenment, which I call identifying with God, is also part of the techniques of scientific or affirmative prayer. You may remember several lessons back where you become one with God, you sit in meditative state, and you identify with God. Remember that? So you identify, you begin to feel the peace, love, joy, harmony, higher intelligence, wisdom that you really are, and then you get into your affirmative prayer or affirmative prayer treatment, if you will. So you see the tie-in? Everything is related. It's so cool. By the time we finish the series, you'll see that, oh, this actually relates to that, and that relates to this, and I remember this from that. Holy Toledo. And so it's very exciting. So quite simply, how do we identify with God and keep identifying with God consciously as part of the fourfold path to enlightenment? We'll be back.
Expand your consciousness and awareness with Dr. Michael's more than 40 paperback books of a self-help, mystical, new thought, and metaphysical nature, available from Amazon.
And we're back. So this is how we identify with God consciously as part of the 4 techniques of the fourfold path to enlightenment. So you may remember, when you're in meditative state, besides doing your usual spiritual practices and tools and techniques, you add to that the affirmation, the feeling, the seeing, the knowing of letting go of your personal ego, will, or ego identity, saying that 9 times, 3 times out loud, 3 times to yourself in a whisper, and 3 times silently. The second one, you release any negative karma to God, or whatever feels right. You release any negative karma that may exist on all levels of your mind. Say that also 9 times, 3 times out loud while in meditative state, 3 times as a whisper, and 3 times silently. And this third one, I identify with God. So when you say that 3 times, I identify with God, I identify with God, I identify with God. And then when you say it as a whisper, I identify with God, I identify with God, I identify with God. And then finally, silently to yourself, feel it. Feel contentment, feel joy, feel the oneness, which is peace, love, joy, harmony, compassion, all those great things. Contentment, I don't know if I said that as well. Feel all those things in your one-ment with Source. That's it. So now we've just tackled the third of the 4 fourfold path techniques, doors if you want to call them, the rungs towards enlightenment. Very, very cool. What an exciting journey this is. And I so appreciate you joining me along this journey. I hope it makes sense to you. If it doesn't make sense, let's discuss it. We've got a Facebook group page. We've got a Facebook discussion page. You can contact me thusly through Facebook regardless, or through Instagram, or through Tumblr, or through Twitter. You can see I'm very big on social media. Through my blog, through my website, www.drmichaelleike.net, or simply drop me an email. Any questions, anything to add to it, let's talk. I'm so grateful. I'm so thankful for all of you out there. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to share this with all of you out there. I hope you'll join me next time. Peace and richest blessings.
Welcome to the Fourfold Path and Dr. Michael Leike's spiritual tools and technologies that will increase the quality of your life.